It's recording. I thought it would be fun to have a look at a box of fine quality miniatures and small cabinet-sized mineral specimens. When I zoom out, you will get a better impression of the size of these pieces. I'm also going to discuss what these minerals are worth in monetary terms. I'll also point out the finest pieces which are in this box, what makes them fine, and I'll also disclose how long that I've had some of these pieces. I've been collecting since 1987, or earlier than then really, but I bought my first fine collector mineral in 1987, and it was a Mapimi atomite. Now what we have here is a fine specimen of azurite with malachite. It is from Morenci in Arizona. Morenci is a big copper mine located in southern Arizona, and it has produced most of its specimens during post-1980. Bisbee's another famous Arizona mine complex, but most specimens from Bisbee that are preserved in modern collections were mined between around 1880 and 1920. The Sarr Shaft, the Campbell Shaft, the Lavender Pit. These are all famous mines in the Bisbee mine complex. And most of them, most of these mines mainly produced in pre-1920, although there has been production of azurite more or less through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way to the 80s. Now, but this one here is from Morenci, and it's a fine group of azurite crystals. It's very pretty. It's probably worth up to $2,500 US. Azurite and malachite is one of the most recognizable combinations of two mineral species in the mineral kingdom. They are both copper-bearing carbonates. But as far as people who collect azurite and malachite goes, well, azurite is the most represented species in my collection in terms of monetary value of the total collection. But both azurite and malachite are among the top 20 collected mineral species. Now, this is among collectors of display minerals. Not as popular as fluorite, but probably even in the top 10. Now, this is probably worth about $2,500 US. I'm talking in US dollars because more of the audience will relate to this currency. Now, this piece here is a stunning cluster of malachite pseudomorphs after azurite. Very sharp pseudomorphs. Now, pseudomorph literally means false form in Greek. And this specimen started its life as these azurite crystals, but over probably millions of years, or maybe a little bit less, but over a long period of time, the azurite chemically altered to malachite. So this piece has the form of azurite crystals, but the chemical composition of malachite. There's also cerussite on the back here. But this is from the Mammoth St. Anthony mine complex, which is near Tiger in Arizona. And Tiger is one of the mineral localities which was written about in Peter Bancroft's Gem and Crystal Treasures, published in 1984 by Western Enterprises of Fallbrook, California. And yes, I even met Peter Bancroft when he was alive. I've met many famous collectors, even ones who are still alive. This fine quality arsenopyrite is from another one of the localities that Bancroft reviewed in his great and famous book that every collector should have a copy of, because Gem and Crystal Classics is one of the classics. Gem and Crystal Treasures is one of the classics. Panasquera was also reviewed in this book. And Panasquera has produced some of the world's finest crystals and crystal clusters of arsenopyrite. This is a very fine cluster consisting of a group of intergrown arsenopyrite crystals. It is particularly bright. Now, fine quality arsenopyrite in this era mostly comes from the Yaoganshan mine in Yunnan province of China. The fine quality arsenopyrite comes from Tasmania and Zacatecas and a few other localities. Now, this pretty arsenopyrite, it's not very expensive either. It's worth about $2,500, and so is the pseudomorphous malachite with cerussite. Now, this is a higher value piece. It is an apatite crystal. Now, it is a stunning apatite crystal. The colour is rare. Apatite crystals normally consist of hexagonal prisms, but this one consists of, well, a hexagonal prism, but with a hexagonal pyramid on one end. This end here. The colour is beautiful. It also has some transparency and translucency. And I would like to know if anyone in the audience has one like this. Now, I think this should be worth... Now, this is based on other types of apatite that I've looked at, which are more common than this one. This deserves to be worth about $30,000. And I know what some of the dark blue apatites from Panasquera sell for. Now, Panasquera produced green, blue, and purple apatite. Now, purple apatite from Panasquera, a large cabinet piece can be worth even over $1 million in today's market, because deep purple apatite on matrix is very rare. Now, blue apatite isn't as common or as rare as purple apatite, but it's more common than green apatite. Now, I once had a green apatite specimen from Panasquera that I found less desirable than this fine blue apatite, and the other one, well, I traded it at a value of about $50,000. I think this should reasonably be worth about $30,000 US. Logic dictates this. But I would like to know if anyone out there owns a better one or an equivalent one or even a worse one. Now, what we have here is a contemporary mineral. I in fact bought this piece from Bill Larson, who is the principal of Parlour Properties, or renamed to Parlour International. And Parlour is a gem house located in Fallbrook, California. And Bill has been synonymous with fine quality mineral specimens from Myanmar for over a decade. But I bought this from Bill at the Denver show of 2009. It is a fine spinel. Now, before the days of spectral chemical analysis, spinel and ruby were confused. Now, ruby is a type, it is a red corundum variety. Corundum is aluminium oxide, which has a hardness of 9 on the Mohs hardness scale. Now, spinel is chemically different to what ruby is. It is softer. It is a different crystal system. Now, corundum forms as hexagonal dipyramidal crystals. Well, this isn't a hexagonal crystal. You can see it quite plainly on your screen here. Now, from memory, spinel is a magnesium oxide, magnesium aluminium oxide from memory, but it has a different chemical formula and structure to ruby. But in the days before spectral analysis and quantitative methods for expressing hardness and other traits in a mineral specimen, ruby and spinel couldn't be distinguished. And so this is as recently as the Tudor period or the Renaissance. It still wouldn't have been known during the Renaissance. My guess is that during the 17 or 1800s, there would have been a difference that could be seen by scientists of this era. But this is a fine quality spinel. It is a little bit rounded on the vertices and on the tip because it is alluvial. It has been tumbled through streams. When we turn it around, we can see this crystallization pattern inside and this beautiful translucency. Now, this one's worth about $15,000. Now, what we have here are a high value mineral and an inexpensive mineral. Now, these are both pretty little rocks, but this one here is rosacite. Now, it's not expensive. It's worth about $100, but you might be able to buy it for $50. But it really is a pretty rock, and to the uninitiated collector or someone who's just starting to collect minerals, that and that are equally pretty. But this one here is much higher value. It is much rarer. It is much more sought after by advanced collectors. I would need $20,000 to part with this piece. It is legrandite. But what puts this legrandite ahead of other legrandites? Well, the association with the colourless species is one trait. The colourless species is smithsonite. Now, legrandite is a zinc-bearing arsenate species. And the best legrandite specimens on Earth are found at Mapimi. Now, this is from the Ojuela mine, but there is a nearby mine in Mapimi which is also a legrandite producer and which is the type locality for legrandite. Legrandite was also found at Sumeb, Namibia, which has a rich and diverse arsenate zone. It was also found as microcrystals at Broken Hill in New South Wales. Now, Broken Hill is another locality that has a large and deep oxidised zone, up to 400 feet deep, and with much richness in representation of several rare arsenate species. Only get microcrystals of legrandite though. But the fact that these legrandites are in a string of balls sets this apart. The provenance is also interesting. This piece was formerly in the University of Michigan collection. University of Michigan no longer has such an extensive mineral collection. Most of the pieces were transferred to Seaman Mineralogical Museum, which is on the Copper Peninsula of Michigan, which has probably the best native copper collection in the United States, or probably anywhere in the world. I'm buying more legrandite specimens. I have this one and another one with paradamite in my collection, but I am after more legrandite specimens, and I am interested in trading too. I'm actively building the collection as we speak. Now let's have a look at a few other good minerals. Now, calcite is one of the top 20 mineral species as far as the number of private collectors who pay money to add new calcites to their collection. It's probably among the top 5 species as far as dollars spent on calcite goes. Now, this one here is from Sumeb, Namibia. Now, calcite, as in pure calcium carbonate with no inclusions and no trace element profile, is colourless. This calcite specimen is off-white, it's pale yellow, but it has these microcrystal inclusions of duftite, and hence the beautiful green colour. Duftite is a rare mineral, and it occurs at Sumeb, Namibia, with calcite and montramite and dioptase too, and other minerals. But Sumeb probably produced the world's best calcite with duftite and the world's best duftite specimens. Duftite also occurs at Mount Bonnie in the Northern Territory with mimetite. Duftite is a lead and copper bearing arsenate species. This one's worth about $15,000. The reason that I like this one so much is because it is so richly included with duftite. And of course, it's essentially undamaged. Now, the reason that calcite is among the most collected mineral species is for several reasons, but one of these reasons is that calcite crystallises in more three-dimensional shapes than any other mineral species. What you see here is a calcite rhombohedron. So this is a natural crystal and not a cleavage fragment. But calcite crystals display greater diversity in crystal shape than crystals of any other mineral species. So that is one reason why calcite collecting is so popular. Now this is an elite sericite specimen despite only being small. It is also from Sumeb, Namibia. Sumeb produced the world's greatest sericite specimens and the world's best sericite with malachite specimens. What we see here is a twinned sericite crystal cluster. Now, twinning is not just two crystals that have grown together. Twinning is a phenomenon where two or more crystals share a common atomic plane. And a twinning habit, such as contact twinning, or which you see here, or penetration twinning, can be expressed as a mathematical type of formula. Now, cerussite is lead carbonate that crystallises in the orthorhombic crystal system. And it is the most mined secondary lead-bearing mineral species. But Tsumeb, Namibia, and Broken Hill, New South Wales are two of the world's greatest cerussite producing localities. Now, see, you have this fine cerussite. Well, if this wasn't attached to a malachite, the cerussite might be worth about $1,000. The malachite might be worth about sort of $20. But because we've got these two species together on a well-proportioned specimen, the combination leads to this piece being worth around $12,000 US. Go to a big mineral show and you mightn't be able to find another Tsumeb cerussite on malachite, let alone a piece with the exquisite aesthetics of this piece. Cerussite was common at Tsumeb and so was malachite, although you see little malachite was preserved in modern collections. Now, this next mineral that we're looking at is also from Tsumeb, Namibia, and it is a superb rarity. It is Zinkian olivenite. Now, Zinkian olivenite is also an arsenate mineral species that reached its ultimate in development at Tsumeb, Namibia, although good Zinkian olivenite specimens also came from mines in Cornwall, England, and also Milpillis. I've even got a Zinkian olivenite from Spring Creek in South Australia. But this Zinkian olivenite is also with malachite and azurite. The malachite is pseudomorphous. There are other green copper minerals here. Some rare ones like maybe sumebite, maybe motramite, maybe gatrolite, maybe something else that's rare and green. This one's worth about $10,000 US. And I bought this one from Mike Kime of Marin Mineral Company fame. Mike sells some very fine minerals through his popular website. And this is an example of one of the exquisite miniatures that I have acquired from Mike. Now, we're going to have a look at some other Tsumeb minerals in a few minutes, but let's have a look at three Aussie pieces first. Now this pyromorphite, it's a very good one actually. It's from Broken Hill and it consists of yellow interlocking crystals of this bright canary yellow pyromorphite. Now the crystals are only small. Now this piece is inexpensive because the crystals are very small, but compared to pyromorphite crystals that you see from Bunker Hill in Idaho. Now Bunker Hill would be America's best pyromorphite producing locality. It was a big lead mine with long history and it's being opened up as we speak. It's going to go through another production period, but I'm not sure how much oxidized zone is left. But Bunker Hill's heyday as far as specimen production was during the 1980s and also much of the 1990s, maybe early around the turn of this century. But some of the finest and largest Bunker Hill pyromorphites are probably worth, well, easily in the six figures. And there are probably some of the very top museum-sized Bunker Hill pieces that are worth around $500,000. So the reason I say that is that I like to present minerals in a type of context that truthfully conveys quality. Now, this is a very good piece, but it's probably about as good as yellow pyromorphite clustered crystals can get. Broken Hill produced high-value brown pyromorphite, which will be the subject of another video. Now, Broken Hill, New South Wales, is Australia's most famous mineral specimen producing locality, and it's really the only locality that most collectors from outside Australia can name without making a grab for a textbook. But here in Australia, I work with more Broken Hill mineral specimens compared to mineral specimens from all of Australia's other localities. Now, this is historically. I've recently bought a very large copper collection, which is thousands of pieces. But if you forget about copper now, when I talk about copper, what you see here on your camera is just a little smidgen of this copper collection. Now, I'm just conveying this so everyone out there knows that I'm not just a dinky little dealer. I have millions, or maybe tens of millions, of mineral specimens that I can access very easily. The best and most competitive and most consultative source of mineral specimen knowledge that you can get anywhere in the world. And how can I say this with such bombosity? Well, I can say it because everything that I say is not only said, I'll even put it in writing. And when you're a new chum in the mineral land out there, a lot of people just won't put anything in writing because there are so many people who call themselves mineral dealers who in fact will convey a lot of knowledge that is not quite right at all, and they know it perfectly well. Not so with me. I will put things in writing. I'm very contractual. I'll even make offers on mineral specimens in writing, just like somebody from any other type of commercial area where money has to change hands. So I know that there are collectors who were active in 1970 who got free minerals, but that just doesn't happen anymore. Not in the real world anyway. But what we have here is a wonderful little historical piece. It is a fine quality specimen of azurite with malachite and sericite. It is from Broken Hill in New South Wales. And by standards of 1900, when this was produced, it really would have been a great azurite specimen. In this era, it's just a nice historical piece. I'm pleased that I have it, and it's probably worth about $1,200 US. Now, the world's best azurite, or one of the world's best azurites, is the Newmont azurite. Now, I have seen this famous giant sumac azurite in person when it was on display at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, after it had been removed from the foyer of Newmont Mining Corporation, where it had sat for decades. But James Horner, he was a famous mineral collector, a musician and composer who accidentally killed himself in a plane that he was trying to fly. Not a very good pilot, but anyway, he was a great composer, a mineral collector and producer, a very rich man, and he offered $15 million for the Newmont azurite. And I'm going to tell the audience who doesn't know what the Newmont azurite is, you must go out and Google it. And I encourage people to research everything, even words that come out of my mouth. Because when you learn how to research minerals properly and the identities who sell them and barter them, you will know, well, that information that you learn about minerals, it shouldn't just be taken for granted that everyone is going to honestly convey all of the information that you need to know and want to know. Of course, you want to know about a mineral specimen represented in context with what really is the best, instead of being told it's the best. Because with some people, particularly mineral and used car dealers, they will tell you that everything, whatever they sell, is the best. Even shampooed tyres. Even animals that they catch around their showroom. Now, I like to have a little bit of a joke too. But this one here that we're looking at right now, it is crocite. Now, crocite is a mineral that does not even occur at most lead deposits. It is a lead chromate. Now, the world's best crocite locality is Dundas in Tasmania. Now, this one here is from the Adelaide mine. It is a terminated crystal. Now, terminated crocite crystals are very rare compared to crystals that are not terminated. But most terminated crocite crystals display a Hoppard termination. Well, this one here displays a Hoppard termination too, but it also displays positive faces. Now, a Hoppard termination is a termination that is hollow, and the reason that a Hoppard termination develops is that there is deposition of anions and cations of a crystal at the sides at a faster rate compared to the interior of the crystal. Now, I have much larger and finer and higher value crocite specimens, but this fine crystal is worth about $2,500. Spessonite. Now, spessonite is zinc carbonate. Zinc carbonate is, or spessonite, is the most common secondary lead species. Now, Sumeb, Namibia is the world's greatest spessonite producing locality. Sumeb produced more spessonite than any other locality. It produced spessonite that was either colourless, white, or brown, but pink spessonite or cobalt or manganese containing spessonite, this pink coloration is probably as a result of a trace contamination of both cobalt and divalent manganese cations. But pink spessonite at Sumeb was much rarer than colourless white or brown spessonite. Now, even rarer than pink spessonite was green spessonite, is what we see here. Now, this piece used to be in the collection of Prosper Williams. He was a preeminent mineral dealer who was a Canadian, and he mainly dealt during the 1970s. Now, this was in Prosper Williams' collection. Now, it's worth about $15,000 US. Now, this one is, I got it for $220. It's probably worth about sort of $750, but the green one is much more rarer. Green spessonite was much rarer than pink spessonite. This green spessonite, it may have only been mined from one pocket. Now, dioptase is probably, well, dioptase is what you could call a sort of signature species for Sumeb, but not the rarest mineral found at Sumeb. There are over 50, when Sumeb was mined between 1899 and around 1995 when it closed as a result of exhaustion of easily mineable ore. Well, in that time window, there would have been over 60 completely new mineral species found at Tsumeb. Now, I can name a few of them, but I'm not really a rare species expert. But ludlockite, lightite, stotite, and even germanite, which is germanium sulfide. Now, these are just 4 mineral species that Tsumeb is the type locality of. There is also quitite, named after Clive Quite, who was a geologist who worked at Tsumeb, and he was fined for dealing with mineral specimens. But then in Clive's normal, ingenious style, and which would have really put it up the nose of senior management at Tsumeb Corporation, Clive set up shop around the corner from the Tsumeb Corporation mine. So they didn't really achieve anything by sacking Clive. And it just reflects how many mining companies just aren't very knowledgeable or careful or even caring about all of the mineralogical heritage that they destroy every day. And just so we can have metals like copper and lead and gold and all of the other types of metal alloys that you see all around you right now. Anyway, I just thought I'd have a good dig at Tsumeb Corporation, because Tsumeb Corporation didn't comply with my request either. When I was a kid, I wanted Tsumeb Corporation to send me some minerals, but they just wouldn't do it. Isn't that sad? It really is. It just shows how unenlightened they were. But dobtase is one of the most famous mineral species from Tsumeb. Now, Tsumeb dobtase is loved by everyone, and this type where you have the dobtase crystals on white rhombohedral calcite is very, very popular. And most collectors who have been collecting for at least 12 months will recognise dobtase and calcite, and it is indeed one of the most coveted mineral species combinations. But very few collectors own a good dobtase and calcite specimen. Now that one there is worth about $2,500 US, but I have a much higher value one which will be the subject of a later video. Now this one here, it has a beautiful shape and large, distinct, freestanding crystals, and these dobtase crystals are included close to the surface with probably calcite and duftite as well. So you can see some pale green duftite. This has a beautiful shape about it. Now, I'm going to talk about the provenance of this piece. I bought it from Stuart Walensky in 1994. So that's 22 years ago. And I bought it for $950 US in 1994. It's worth between $7,500 and $10,000 in today's market. Dobtase is, and particularly from Tsumeb, is a mineral species that is one of the most consistent performers as far as appreciation goes. Now, there hasn't been any dobtase at all removed since the early 1990s, but most dobtase that is in modern collections hit the market between 1970 and 1990. Most production was from the second oxidation zone at Tsumeb. I mostly collect larger minerals, but I couldn't resell this beautiful thumbnail. Well, I could have resold it, but I just wasn't willing to resell it. So I decided to keep it as a part of my CMAB Dobtes collection. Now, this piece here is known as thumbnail size. A thumbnail is any type of mineral specimen that fits inside a 1 by 1 by 1 inch display cube. Now, a display cube measures 3 centimetres along the diagonal, but this is more or less a full-sized thumbnail specimen, or it's a large thumbnail with these emerald green, glossy, classically shaped Dobtes crystals. Now, Dobtes has been called the poor man's emerald, but you know some of the most elite Dobtes specimens on Earth are more expensive than most real emeralds. But I have seen a Dobtes that was donated to the Los Angeles County Museum, Natural History, I think. I've seen it in real life, but I can't remember which museum I saw it in. But it's pictured in a book. It's a Dobtes with cerussite combination specimen, and it had a cerussite crystal twin. And I know that this piece was valued at over $1 million US by Cal Graber shortly before either the Los Angeles County Museum or the Houston Museum of Natural Sciences got it. So Dobtes is a type of mineral that every collector wants to own it, particularly new collectors. New collectors are more likely than mature collectors, like me, to be motivated by colour. As a collector matures, colour is also important, but other considerations, including morphology or crystal shape or rarity, are more likely to be of interest. Well, let's face it, that's why I collect these brown native copper specimens. Now, most newbie collectors will not have the same relationship with copper that I have. Now, I have a relationship with copper that started in 1994 when I met James Gastineau by the phone. And my copper collecting career includes the flagship copper, which appeared on a Tucson show poster. Now, the last mineral specimen that we're going to have a look at today is this beautiful cluster of CMAB Dobtes, and this really is a lot more impressive in real life, but I think the video conveys some of this piece's beauty even as the sun comes out. Oh, look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? It is a druce of Dobtes crystal. Now, the word druce is a crystallographer's word for crystal group. So we could say that this is druzy Dobtes, or a druce, or a group of Dobtes crystals. Beautiful emerald green crystals, most of them are pristine. Now, this piece is worth around $15,000 US. And if you want to find a better one, well, you might, but you might have to pay a lot more for it too, or you might not find it at all. Mineral specimens can be anywhere. Now, I bought this great piece around Melbourne, as a matter of fact. There are some very good mineral specimens here in Melbourne and some top dealers out in this part of the world. And they deserve a top collector like me. Now, but this really is a wonderful Dobtes, and I just love showing it off. Now, this video is more or less to invite new collectors to come along and to communicate with me. And it isn't really a sales video. Now, I would much rather barter than sell. The reason being is that if I sell minerals, well, that gives me cash. But what is that cash going to be spent on. More minerals. Now, a more direct way of getting new minerals is simply bartering them. Now, I'm sure that everyone out there who has watched this video from beginning to end already has some sort of inclination to collect minerals. Now, I invite you to come wherever you are in the world. It can be America, Iran, or even Melbourne. Come and see me and bring some things for me to have a look at. Or I can come and see you. You just have to tell me where you are. And I have travelled all over the world collecting minerals. I've lived and worked in the United States for a total of 24 months, over 17 visits, buying, selling, bartering, appraising, looking at, valuing, photographing minerals, and doing even more. 2 years of full-time experience in the United States playing with minerals. Also visited South Africa 9 times and Namibia 3 times, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo twice. Also visited Bolivia once in 1998 when it was the second poorest country in Latin America. Visited Peru and spent 12 days in Lima when Lima was one of the most crime-afflicted cities in Latin America. Even went to Chile, went to the Atacama Desert, and want to go again. Want to go to Copiapó to look for copper minerals. Not so much dioptase, but atacamite and other rarities that come from northern Chile. I've also been to South Africa 9 times. I've been to Indonesia once. Yes, I've been to Indonesia. I've been all over the place. I've travelled all over Australia. Lived and worked in every Australian city, even Melbourne. And I've done some of my best and biggest mineral deals here in Australia, including deals that I have engineered, which have happened in the United States without me being there every minute to supervise these deals. Wherever you are, if you've got a good mineral collection that you want to sell, let me know, because I have partners and agents everywhere in the world. They're in Australia, they're in America, they're in South Africa, they're in Europe. Every populated continent I have my tentacles reaching to. And I'm just a much better option for many collectors. But dealing with an out-of-town collector can be a great advantage. See, if you deal with an out-of-town collector, the advantage is that you can sell or consign a collection, and a big collection too. You can do it discreetly and quietly. And I don't have to publish everything. I have a lot of clients who just do business with me only. And some of them are very rich clients. And some of them have even bought whole collections from me. I delivered a 20 flat collection the other day. Over 1,000 minerals. From thumbnail to a large cabinet. Some educational specimens, but some very fine pieces too. So whatever you want to sell, let me know. And if I can see a way, and I normally do see a way, I will make it happen. Now, my email address can be found on this presentation. And feel free to email me any time of the day or night. And thanks for tuning in and listening and watching this entire video.